Traders at a market in Aninri local government area of Enugu State on Wednesday burst into wild celebrations upon receiving the news of the release of Beatrice Ekweremadu, wife of a former Deputy Senate President, Ekweremadu, who was sentenced to jail for 4 years and 6 months in the United Kingdom in March 2023 for organ harvesting. Her husband, Ekweremadu, was also found guilty of the same offense and was sentenced to 9 years and 8 months in prison. Beatrice Ekweremadu was reported to have joined her family sometime this week after serving her jail term. The traders in Enugu State, where Beatrice hails from, were seen in this video singing and dancing in celebration of her return. Let's take a look.
This is only of the bucket. The women of Umpa are rejoicing that they had the good news that the wife of the single purpose of Ekweremadu has been released. So congratulated in their numbers. Adorian Bumarket. So can we see that the people of Umpa are very, very happy. Having had the good news that the single purpose of Ekweremadu wife has been released. As you can see, everywhere is very, very hot.
All right. I mean, this news broke yesterday. I mean, we're hearing sources that, no British media has reported it as of yet, but we are reliably confirmed that she has returned to Nigeria. I mean, you can understand why the traders in Enugu State are so excited because of her philanthropic efforts. I believe she and her husband has empowered a lot of Nigerians, not just in Enugu State, sent people to school. But the crux of the matter really is, the reason as to why she was sent to jail with her husband. We know the story, the background of the story. Ekweremadu had actually written a letter when to the British consul to actually detail what, his accuser was, going to do in London, and which is for the kidney transplant for his daughter. And, this whole incident occurred because I believe that there was some sort of witch hunt at one point with Ekweremadu and the EFCC. If you recall, back when the trial went on, there was a time when Ekweremadu was actually he wasn't granted bail because there was no cooperation by the EFCC here in Nigeria, which is quite a sad situation because, like we've been talking about Donald Trump and, making America great again and putting, our citizens first. Why do we see this sort of thing happen in Nigeria? I know that at the time, the Senate had organized a group of people to go on behalf of, the Nigerian government or whatnot to try to appeal to the UK government. But I'm glad to see that this matter with Beatrice has been, resolved. We don't know as to the reason why she did not serve her full term. Ayo.
All right. So it's a reason we can speculate as a result of the fact that yes, because she was sentenced. They were sentenced in June 2022, and when this news came out, it was very big story. It was controversial as well. People for and against, people looking at the merit of the case, organ trafficking, the plight of a mother who wanted to save her child, whether or not the boy who was taken was informed or not. But that's besides the point. The UK courts found them guilty and they were sentenced to 3 years, at least for her, 3 years in prison. Now, that would have 3 years now that she's been released is not up to the time. I think it would be summer later on this year that would have made her full sentence. But recall that since this Labour government came into power, they have talked about overcrowding in prisons. And they have said it's been an issue that has been highlighted in the UK for a while, and that those with non-violent crimes, they will be reviewed and perhaps their sentences reduced, especially also if they had good behavior in Her Majesty's prison. This is what we can speculate happened, that while she was there, she was of good behavior. Also, as a result of evaluating her case to see was non-violent and just seeing that, okay, they could let her go early rather than serving the full term, and that could be perhaps a reason for that. But like you said, the good news is that she's back home now. It's great to know that her daughter is still alive, and hopefully they're still pursuing an opportunity for her to have that kidney transplant.
All right. Dr.
Okay,
Hansen.
a number of issues here. Let's dimension them properly. The matter is about organ harvesting. The case was about organ harvesting, and the court in England found Senator Ekweremadu guilty, sentenced him to 10 years, found his wife guilty, sentenced him to 6 years. And then there was also a Dr. Obinna Obeta, who was said to have been involved in the matter. He was also convicted. That's number one. Number two is the point raised about, prison time. The fact that Mrs. Ekweremadu has now been released. Now, within their jurisdiction there, they have some other protocols, maybe for good behavior, maybe a new government is in place, maybe the prisons are over-congested, and all of that, and they will say, well, we'll reduce sentences. One of the things that the Labour government has been trying to do. Yeah. The other point to note is that prison calendar is calculated differently. So what is 5 years, 6 years in normal calendar is different from how it is calculated. So it's important to also look at all of those areas. Number three, the point that Ujineka raised is about the behavior of the Nigerian government. Yes. Now, there are persons who are convinced and who believe that the Nigerian government was not fair to the Ekweremadus. Yeah. There were persons, yes, as you said, from the Senate, who went to, show solidarity with their former deputy Senate president. But we recall that it was at that time that the EFCC, under Abdulrashid Bawa, then decided to bring up this 2006 Act about assets forfeiture, and they brought it up and they were saying, oh, Ekweremadu should forfeit some assets. And I think Justice Justice Enyang Ekwa was the one who spoke up at that time and said that, look, even that process was questionable. So you found a former deputy Senate president having an issue abroad, and then his own country bringing up another matter to sabotage him. However, the law is the law. The basic lesson from this is that Nigerians should realize that what is permissible in Nigeria is not permissible in another place. If you go foul of the organ harvesting law of the United Kingdom and you are involved in it, then of course you will answer for it. Right. That is another lesson. But there are also some other gray areas. What's the boy's name? David, yes. Mwamini, I think that's the name. Mwamini,
I can't pronounce that.
Something like that. The guy first said he was 15 years old. Yes. It was later discovered that he was over 22 years. It was also discovered that he had claimed falsely that his parents died. Yeah. But the way the case went, all of that did not help the Ekweremadus and the Dr. Obeta in the court in England. But it's just for us, basic lesson, to know that, look, how they do in your village is not how they do in Rome. But we are happy that she's back and all of that. Now, another leg of it is that there's a human side to it. They are not, the conviction in England is not saying Senator Ekweremadu, stole money, not that he committed a crime involving some heinous thing. This was a man and a woman who wanted to help their own daughter. Yes. A lady named Sophia. Who had kidney issues. Sonia. And if you look at it from a parental background, it looks like the kind of mistake that any parent could have made. But you see, again, the law is the law. So, well, Mrs. Ekweremadu is back. The senator has 10 years. Apparently, he will complete his own term. Dr. Obeta will complete his own term. But in Nigeria, I don't think anybody should have any anxiety. We have been in this country where even people who stole money, not people trying to play their role as parents, getting on the wrong side of the law abroad, had returned to become political godfathers. Yes. So this may be there may well be a second chance for Senator Ekweremadu. Don't be surprised when it is his turn to return, that some people will push that he should be president of this country, and he will return into the political space. Right. But don't let me be hyperbolic about this issue. But the human angle part is something that should touch all of us as human beings. Right. You want to help your child, you get into trouble with the law in another land. Right. There will be many lessons that all of us can learn from this example.
All right.